welcome to the Shankly Gates podcast. My name's Grace Maney, and this week I'm joined by David Brindle and Kieran Grayson. This week we're going to be talking about our upcoming game against Everton at the weekend, and also looking back on this week's announced plans, Project Big Picture, and the pay-per-view game system, which is how people will be watching the Premier League games going forward. So we'll start with Project Big Picture. So for people who don't know, the Premier League are going to cut from 20 clubs to 18, and the people who finish 17th and 18th will be automatically relegated to the Championship. The person who finishes in 16th place will battle it out to see whether they're going to get the chance to stay in the Premier League or whether they will be relegated as well. So we'll start with that. 18 clubs in the Premier League. Kieran, what do you think about that?
Yeah, again, it was a little confusing reading through, all the different type of things, but obviously there's going to be clubs that are disappointed because they've obviously got to get to the stage of, we've got 20 now, they've got to get to the stage of getting to 18. And then, you've got all the system there. I think that's a much better system for relegation anyway. It works well in other countries, like Germany, for instance, where the team that finishes their bottom plays off against teams in the second division. So that's, for me, that's one of the things that I was definitely for in this big picture.
Another thing to add to that is that parachute payments for when you drop leagues are going to be scrapped. So you're not going to get a lump sum for when you drop through the leagues. What do you think about that, Dave?
Well, if you're replacing it with a 25% revenue, then you can't really expect it both ways. You could potentially argue that clubs that are being relegated will need extra support because there is still going to be, well, at least in the early days, if it does go through, there is still going to be a large gap between the Championship and the Premier League. So obviously teams that come up are going to spend a lot of money trying to be able to compete. And if they then go down, you look at how many teams go down and have to offload as many players as they can. So there's still an argument that they should be given a bit more extra support. But it's not set in stone. It's not final. So that might be something that these clubs are worried about and might want adding. It won't be in the same scale as the parachute payments currently are, because of the fact that they're given 25% revenue, and that should, in theory, offset huge losses in terms of dropping down from the Premier League. So, as I say, I think there is scope to look at that and improve that side of it. But if the aim of it is giving them more money as it is, then I think you can't argue, really.
The other option proposed in the plan is to scrap the League Cup and the Community Shield, which obviously is I feel like that's quite a controversial topic, the Community Shield. Like, is it worth anything? What do you think about them getting rid of the League Cup?
I think for me, the League Cup doesn't really mean that much. Most teams don't actually care about the League Cup until they get near the quarters and semis. Most of the time, the semi-final. Sometimes clubs have gone all the way to the final before they start putting full strength teams out. So I think for me, if it was me deciding, I think the EFL Cup would be for teams just in the Championship, League One, League Two, and give them an opportunity of, I don't know, some sort of European football. I don't know. That might be a bit controversial, but it seems to be more of a nuisance for big clubs. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for them big clubs to play the young players in a competitive game of football. So, you're going to lose that as well. But I mean, I look back at last season when Liverpool put a gang of youngsters out because they had to go to Dubai, and that just showed the priority that these teams have for the League Cup. I don't know what you think about that, Kieran, but that's my take.
I think obviously we speak from a Liverpool point of view. Obviously, again, we always seem to just play the kids or play whatever. But I think if you look at it from an overall perspective of all other EFL clubs, there's certain teams that have certainly lowered down that absolutely benefit from the cup run. They can get to the latter stages. That literally funds their whole season. So for me, and obviously you're talking about the European incentive. I know UEFA in the next couple, I think starting next season, this UEFA Conference League's coming in, which I was reading into, is the third tier European competition, which I think the winners of the League Cup, if it was still to be with us, it goes straight into that. So from a Liverpool point of view, if it was scrapped, I wouldn't be too disappointed. But I think if you take into account all of the clubs' sort of input on it, I think it would affect them a lot more.
And do you know what? If we do scrap it, if it does get scrapped, I think Liverpool have won it the most times anyway, haven't they? So that'll be a record that can never be.
7 wins.
Let's look at the bright side. Eh?
So you mentioned the money aspect, Kieran, and how much winning the Capital One, keep calling it that, the League Cup, would help the clubs who are in the lower leagues. But this proposal, Project Big Picture, is proposing a £250 million rescue fund made immediately available to the EFL. And as Dave mentioned before, the 25% of all TV deals will go to the clubs. So what do we think that is the biggest positive to take from Project Big Picture, the amount of money that will help save the clubs in the EFL? We know now that clubs like Macclesfield Town, Wigan Athletic have massively suffered in terms of revenue because they haven't had any fans coming into the stadium, and so many clubs will fold just because they haven't had fans. So do we think this money will benefit them? How much do we think that'll help them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll benefit them. I mean, all the problems that have been caused because of COVID, something had to be done. I think, as you alluded to, this is one of the major positives from it, because the teams in the Football League, they're scrapping every week just to make ends meet. So yeah, by having this fund, it would just seriously make a massive difference to these clubs. And I think it's an important and vital part that we don't let another club fall through the trapdoor, because you just don't know. It could just happen to quite a lot of clubs.
What do you think of that, Dave? Do you think the same?
Yeah, I do. As he says, he makes a good point there that this system's been broken well before COVID. COVID's just pushed it to a tipping point. Clubs have always struggled. The lower league clubs have always struggled to make ends meet, and it's hand to mouth from probably maybe in the Championship, maybe, but certainly from League One down, and I'm talking all the way down to league clubs and semi-professionals. It's hand to mouth, and it's a wonder that more clubs haven't gone and disappeared. As sad as it is, it really is. It's a wonder that more of them haven't gone. It's been broken for a long time. And what you've seen since the introduction of the Premier League is Premier League clubs getting richer and richer and richer, and therefore getting better and better and better because they can afford more wages, they can afford anyone they want across the planet, they can poach youngsters from League One, League Two without much consequences. What's the worst that's going to happen? A slap on the wrist and a fine. They can afford the fine. That money probably isn't anywhere near enough for the League One, League Two club, or wherever hypothetically the player comes from. So they've just built more and more power. So there's an unbelievable need for a complete reshift in how finances work. And for me, offering at least 25% of TV revenue is a hell of a lot more than what's currently on offer. So I think that's the big point from this, isn't it?
Yeah. And one thing we haven't mentioned is the fact that the voting on all of the decisions that are now made in the Premier League, if this is to go ahead, will be made by the 9 longest standing members of the Premier League. So that's the so-called Big Six. So Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, and also Everton, West Ham, and Southampton. I have to think about that one. So that's been the most controversial thing this week. I think there's a lot of backlash on social media over the fact that these clubs will have all the power and the rest won't have any say, basically. But what do you make of about that? We'll start with you, Kieran.
Yeah, me personally, I'm really not a fan of that. It's just not on, really. Is that it just gives the scope for the rich and powerful already becoming more powerful. I think any votes that need to be passed, it should be made from all members of the Premier League, well, not just Premier League, Football League as well, because it will affect every single club. And then you read all the conspiracy theories, it will make the top 6 more powerful, whether that goes on to form breakaway European Super Leagues and that. which the clubs are going to look at, because the game's all about money these days. As much as we hate it, that's all it's about. So for me, yeah, this is certainly one of the things that I sympathise with a lot of clubs with. That just a lot of nonsense, and something that that I just don't want.
Just
Do you
on
agree with that?
Yeah,
Dave?
just on the European Super League thing, I think the clubs will want that, but I can't see it ever really coming to fruition. There'd be too much against them trying to build that, not just from this country, but I also think UEFA would be against that Super League. They've got a product in the Champions League and to an extent the Europa League, but nowhere near as big as the Champions League. That would be severely impacted by a European Super League, because straight away you're taking all the best clubs that would potentially be in the Champions League or thereabouts, and putting them in a competition completely separate from the Champions League. So the Champions League would end up like an FA Cup or a League Cup that we're talking about scrapping in England, and that would be the equivalent to that. So I can't see that happening. This is where I am a little bit torn on this whole big picture thing, though, because people, you said there, Grace, there's 9 clubs that are going to be given the power. There's special, I don't know what the word is, special representation, if you like, for Everton, Southampton and West Ham, because they've been longer serving. But people don't talk about the fact that Newcastle have been in the league longer than Manchester City. I think Aston Villa might have been in the league longer than Manchester City. So, I don't think you can steal all the power away. But at the same time, the reason that the Premier League makes so much money is because of the top 6. It's because of Liverpool. It's because of Manchester United. It's because of Manchester City. Well, not so much Manchester City until recent years, but Liverpool and Manchester United definitely are the 2 biggest clubs in the country. I don't care what you say. The 2 biggest clubs in the country. Everyone around the world knows them 2 clubs. So you could argue that they should be able to have more say. I don't think they should be able to have the entire say and leave half of the league, or what would be a half of the league in an 18-team league, out. But I think they should deserve more of a say. But yeah, I think they've got that one a little bit wrong, in my opinion. With it just doesn't, that just doesn't feel right.
The other thing we haven't really mentioned is that Leicester don't make it into the top 9. And obviously they won the Premier League, like, what was it, 4 seasons ago? So they must be gutted, because in their head they think, well, we broke the mould and we won the Premier League, so why can't we fit into that top 9? So do you think, as Liverpool fans, it's okay for us because we're at the top, we're included in that top 9? But do you think for clubs like them, it'll be even more upsetting and it'll affect them more than it will affect us? What do you think?
Definitely, because you, under this new, regime, if you like, of these rules, you're probably never going to see another Leicester City, because they're always going to have one hand tied behind the back. Every vote is going to go against them, and if it was to happen, who knows, it could get to a point where the top 6 do either break away and make a new league, or vote that's, you can't finish top. One of the top 6 are going to fit, you know what I mean? They can do what they want, hypothetically. So it's a good point, because Leicester City was a story that, people are going to know for generations, aren't they? It was completely out of the blue. And, I think you'll both remember that season. It was always, Leicester will slip off soon. Leicester will fall away soon. Don't worry about Leicester. And then I think it was Tottenham got beat, did they, by Chelsea, and we were like, they've won it. And I don't think you'll ever see that again under these new this new style of English football, if you like.
So, having talked about all of that, we've gone through all of the proposal with Project Big Picture. I just want one word from both of you. Good or bad? Kieran, go first.
Are they the only 2 choices?
Is that one word?
Fail.
I don't know. Okay, can I say the word "gad"? In
the middle.
Gold.
If this is the only solution, would you be happy with it?
No, I think I would say if it was the only. I'm sure they'll come up with, other solutions to this. But if this was the only one, me personally, I would say no.
What about you, Dave?
If it was the only solution, yes. But I do have my reservations about, the power and why certain clubs have got power and others haven't. But you've got to look at it from, no pun intended, the bigger picture, because there's clubs out there. Sorry, there's clubs out there. There's clubs out there that need this money urgently, that are gonna fall away. And we've seen it already with Bury and Macclesfield, and these clubs. There's £250 million at stake immediately, and then there's a significant increase that is based on the improvements, if you like, of the Premier League or the performance of the Premier League. So if you take out the voting aspect of it and you just put it all together and look at it from that standpoint, I don't see why it's a bad thing from that standpoint. I do understand people's concerns. I also think the concerns are a little bit more. People are more agitated because it's Liverpool and because it's Manchester United. We said this before we started recording. I think if it was two teams in the middle of the league who said, let's have more power in the Premier League, I don't think you'd have got this reaction. I think you'd have had a reaction, but I don't think you'd have got this reaction, where as soon as people see Liverpool and Manchester United, because of how successful they are, and we know when we play other teams how much other teams' fans dislike Liverpool, and I'm sure Manchester United fans will speak the exact same way. I think that has fueled the fire a lot more. But yeah, a one-word answer, very long one-word answer, but yeah, sorry.
I'll let you off. It's all right. The other thing that was announced this week is that Fenway Sports Group, our owners, are looking for a minority shareholder. So, Dave, you know a little bit more about this, so just fill us in.
You've painted me out to be a bit of an expert there, and I'm far from it.
I said a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah, okay. You were sure on that. But as we said, I mean, for the people who've seen Moneyball, will understand. Is it Billy Bean? I think it's Billy Bean. I can't remember. I'm sure it's Billy Bean, but my mind's gone blank. But anyway, let's say it is Billy Bean. He was the general manager, I think, of the Oakland Athletics. And at the end of the film, John Henry's actually in the film. Not actually John Henry, but someone is playing John Henry. And they tried to bring him to Boston to do what he'd done at Oakland. And he basically started this whole Moneyball thing. And you heard a lot of this phrase when the owners took over at Liverpool, because they'd done it with Boston without, let's call him Mr. Bean. No, that's even worse. I'm sure it's Billy, but my mind's gone blank now. So basically, he has left the Oakland Athletics now, and him and another guy have built, pooled money together, $400 million, I think, or pounds, to start investing in soccer, as they will call it over there. And FSG obviously like this man, and they'll be more than happy to have him involved. Obviously, Liverpool have already got other stakeholders in there, with LeBron James was early to the party. So they've said they're not going to sell the club outright, but I think I've read it's about 25% is up for grabs. So they're going to make a lot of money out of this if it goes through. And that can only be a good thing for Liverpool, in my opinion, because that money always seems to go back into the club in terms, the main stand and Kirby. You both see for yourselves that the club is a lot better run than it was in, the early 2000s when we were last successful as well with Champions Leagues and that. So I've got no qualms against it. I don't know about you, Kieran.
No, not at all. I think hearing a story like this, just the word investor, just the sounds of money, just that it warms the heart of many fans to hear it. I mean, so far you can't really complain about any decisions off the field that FSG have done. So for me, I completely trust them to if they're looking for potential investors, that they'll make the right decisions on this. And yeah, I'll give them my full backing that they'll find the right person to take this football club even further forward.
The only concern I've got about it is Manchester. What Liverpool want to do now is they want to go public and be like Manchester United. You can by stocks. And Manchester United didn't really. It's worked out well for the Glazers, but it hasn't really worked out well for Manchester United as such because the fans don't like the ownership. But I think as long as the money is being reinvested like it is now back into the club, obviously FSG are going to take money. They want to make money. That's the whole point of them owning a football club. But as long as the money's reinvested wisely and back into the club, I've got no qualms with it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the developments they've made to the stadium and the training ground just prove how good they've been, really, and that the money is going back into the club. So now we're going to look ahead to our very anticipated fixture, the Merseyside Derby on Saturday. After a 7-2 defeat to Aston Villa, how are we feeling, boys? Kieran, you can start.
I think I've just about calmed down now. Yeah, it's I don't know, it feels like a little way ago. Like I say, I think the international break came at maybe a good time for us. But yeah, just the players need to get back this week and sort all the wrongs from that game. Because as we alluded to in the previous podcast, it was mistake after mistake after mistake. So yeah, it's an absolutely massive game. But it being a Merseyside derby, I think even if we'd have been playing anyone else, to be honest, it'd be a massive game. But the fact it's the Merseyside derby, the tension, ramp up certainly, especially with how well they're going. So yeah, I'm again a bit bit nervous after what I saw last week, but as ever in any derby, really, really looking forward to it.
How do you feel, Dave?
Can I just start by saying how glad I am that I wasn't on last week's podcast, because it seemed like torture to go through that all again. Paul said last week, sometimes when you've had a bad game, you want to right that wrong immediately, and I hope that's not the case with Liverpool. I hope that the time off has allowed them to clear their heads and get back and just completely get rid of it. Because it was disastrous. It really was. It was just it was pathetic. As soon as that first mistake happens from Adrian, it was just a snowball. So I just think, as you say, Kieran, there's no bigger game to come into, regardless of where you're at. And the only good thing about a derby is, I know it's another pun, if you like, form goes out the window, and it quite literally does every single time. So hopefully it's the same again. We could do with that this year.
I'm more nervous about this derby than I ever have been. And I don't know if that's because Everton are doing so well at the moment. Obviously, they've won all of the games so far this season. So, we've lost one, so technically, they're top of the league. So, do we think we can beat them? What do we think?
Yeah, I'd like to think we can beat them, certainly as, rated champions. I mean, these are the games that you've got to live for. It is a strange one though, because I do think in a strange sort of way, both teams are due a win in this game. Certainly at Goodison, like we've not won there in a few years, and they haven't won there in a few years. And I try and look at it from their point of view. They probably won't, maybe have a better opportunity than to try and go for it. So personally, I hope they do have a go, because the last couple of years, the games we've been in there, they've pretty much parked the bus and accepted a point. Now, I'm not, from our point of view, saying a point's a bad result. If you offer me a point now, I'd probably take it. But, I do hope they come out all guns blazing, 4 wins from 4, and think, right, let's get stuck in, because I do think that's our best chance of trying to come away from this game with 3 points.
Yeah, it is. If Everton come out and have a go at Liverpool, that plays into Liverpool's hands. And I also think Ancelotti's a bit too smart to do that. I think we need to say that, if Everton don't win this derby, are they ever going to win another one? Because this is let's be honest, this is the best that they've been in probably my lifetime, maybe. And I'm not that old, for people that don't know how old I am. But yeah, so I do think that this is a serious challenge for Liverpool. I'm not nervous as such. I'm a bit more. expectant of it, I suppose. I'm a bit more sort of wary of it. So, yeah, it's I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest.
I mean, I haven't just put in there, I haven't said that I want them to come and attack. I mean, Villa came and attacked us and we had literally zero answers to it. So, yeah, again, I think that's our best way to win. But if we defend anyway, like we did a couple of weeks ago, like, can you imagine if they start racking up the goals? So they better, learn from the mistakes. Otherwise, that could be one of the worst days we've ever had.
For me, I think I've not really fully considered that Everton are in a better position than us going into this game, because I've never really taken Everton seriously. I've always thought, well, they've always finished roughly around 7th in my lifetime, and that's just what usually happens. So I don't think I've ever thought, oh, actually maybe Everton could challenge for the title this season. I've just never thought that. But how has it been for you? Like, Dave, what do you think? Do you think now is the time to think, oh, right, okay, Everton are doing really well, they're going to keep this up? Like, what do you think?
I do think that keep it up in terms of good form. I don't see them winning the league. I probably don't see them finishing in the top 3. There's an argument that they could probably get in the top 4 if other teams don't fancy it. I don't see them keeping this pace up for the season. I certainly don't. This is a big challenge for them as well. As much as it is for Liverpool at the minute, it's a big challenge for them, and I think this will be a telltale sign for the rest of their season. So I think it's a big game for them. It's probably the biggest derby they've ever had, and every derby's big for both teams, regardless of where they are. So I mean, I see them finishing in Europe. Let's put it that way. Depending on how consistent they can be, and with their personnel, like Jordan Pickford in goal, is he a goalkeeper to get in the top 4? I don't know. And I see them a bit similar to us a few years ago when we had Brendan Rodgers and we had some bad players that were just continually in the team. I think they've got similarities there, and it's more about the next step, because they've certainly got a manager that's good enough for it, and they've got some players in there now that are good enough for it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on other teams around them as well, I think.
What do you think, Kieran?
Yeah, I think, we just can look at the fact we're only really 4 games in. I mean, fair play to them. They've won 4 from 4, and you can't ask for anything better than that. But it's a long old season. You're gonna have, you could follow 4 straight wins with 4 straight losses. You just never know in this league. So I wouldn't say too much right now. I'd look maybe after look at the league after 10 games and see if they're still going up there. Then they become a concern. But I do have a look at the rest of the teams in the league. There's certainly all the big hitters. There's not really a team that I've seen so far that have gone, oh, they look all right this season. I mean, we shipped 7 last week. United shipped 6 last week. City shipped 5 against Leicester. So we were speaking about the Leicester season before. There are, again, I know it's early, but there are a couple of signs that this might be one of those mad seasons. But that's just maybe me spitballing there. So I think it's just a bit too early to be making, too big of predictions like that. But, it might be a bit clearer, depends on the result this weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think, God help us, if they're top of the league at Christmas, we're never going to live it down, even though this season started later this year. We like to do a hot topic on our pod every week. So our hot topic this week is about pay-per-view games that were announced last week now. So this weekend, there are 2 pay-per-view games on Saturday, 2 pay-per-view games on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. So that means people will have to pay £15 to watch a Premier League game. 1 Premier League game. Right. I feel like we could be a bit contrasting here, or maybe not. Right. We'll start with you, Dave. What do you think?
If I'm being totally honest, I think it's a shambles. I really do. I think it's so out of touch with the fan base. I couldn't believe it when I read it. I thought it was a joke, and then I actually seen it confirmed from like an official source. And I could not get my head around it. The Premier League are so far away from society. There's people losing their jobs. There's people unable to work. There's people shielding, isolating. We're not living in normal times. And even if we were living in normal times, £15 is just too much per game. I think they're encouraging people to watch games illegally because so many fans are going to say, well, I can't afford £15 to watch my club every week if they're on it every week. Alongside, don't forget, your Sky Sports package or your BT Sport package, your Amazon Prime subscription to watch any Premier League games. They're just encouraging people to go out and buy a dodgy box or, a dodgy Fire Stick and watch them illegally. If they either turned around and said, right, we're going to charge you £2.50 to watch a game, they probably would have made more money. They'd have had many more viewers, and stopping people going to watch illegal football, that is a big thing that the Premier League go on about, that they want to stop, but they're now actively encouraging it by charging £15. It's just scandalous.
Kieran, what do you think of it all?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Dave. It's absolutely horrific. Just £15 per match. Not just all the games weekend. There's 5 games on pay-per-view. For me, if they just said 15 for all 5 of them, potentially, I would have, gone for it. But it's per game, and it's not just one weekend. This is gonna last potentially all season. So it's just too much. It's so wrong. It's unbelievable. I just couldn't get my head around it. And then you're gonna have the problem with the fact that obviously Sky and BT pick their games every week. They're gonna have to now be fair. Everyone now has to have a certain number of games during the season. Otherwise, the complaints are going to be ridiculous. Because usually Liverpool, mostly we're on, I'd say, about 80% of the time in a normal season for telly. But now that's not going to happen. So, yeah, I'm horrified, to be honest. It's just scandalous.
Yeah, and the way I see it as well is, as Dave said, the Premier League are removed from how fans act and how fans behave. So I think they will be really surprised at the number of people who actually pay. When you think about illegal streams, people are just going to, as Dave said, you are just encouraging people to watch it illegally. And I think that is going to be a massive problem for them. Just a little update before we finish. I still don't have a chocolate bar.
Still no.
I haven't got one either, Grace, so don't feel too bad. Because
yeah, but you didn't even know they existed.
Exactly. I didn't know about anything till about 2 weeks ago. So can someone do us a favour? Someone really, can someone buy us a bar of chocolate and give it to Grace? Can you buy these bars of chocolate? I don't know. If you can someone please buy Grace a bar of chocolate? She's raging.
I think you can get one in the shop. I think you can.
How much are they?
I don't know, but I'll do my research after we finish and find out.
Because you know what? If they're about £1, you need to stop being stingy and go and buy one yourself.
It's not $14.95 by any chance, is it?
I'd rather have one of them than pay to watch a game of that, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you to everyone for watching, and join us again before the derby for an exclusive preview. Thank you.